first, where are you from?
So I'm from Amherst, Massachusetts. I was born in New York City and Manhattan, and I lived in Manhattan and Brooklyn, and also Martha's Vineyard for a year or so. I lived there till I was 8. And then my dad was teaching at UMass Amherst, and my parents were divorced. So I moved to live with my dad in Amherst, starting with third grade. So was in Amherst from third grade through high school, 12th grade. Then my mom eventually moved to Amherst a couple years after I moved with my dad. So I saw sort of split time between both households. But Amherst is home. Went back this summer for my 40th high school reunion also.
Well, yeah. So, like, what kinds of foods, like, did you eat when you were a kid?
It's funny you mentioned that because my dad was a good cook. He didn't always cook foods that I liked. So probably ate healthier foods than I wanted to. He always used to make eggplant parmesan, which I'm sure was very good, but as an 8-year-old, I didn't want to be eating eggplant. So eggplant parmesan, I can't eat to this day. That's the
Yeah.
first thing that comes to mind. He made tuna casserole, which was pretty good. He wasn't a vegetarian or anything, but I don't remember eating much beef. But I remember tuna casserole. He made something that we called the egg thing that was like an egg casserole that was more of a breakfast brunch food. I liked that because I was able to pour a lot of syrup on it. So probably when I spent time with my mom, I probably ate more junk food.
Uh-huh.
And then he also, he's from the South, uh, made some collard greens, black-eyed peas, and I tended to like the black-eyed peas. Collard greens, not so much. I like them now. So he definitely had some Southern foods from his childhood and upbringing. Some
Yeah.
chicken as well.
Yeah. So, like, what traditions did you like celebrate when you were growing up?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. My dad was a writer and professor. My dad was a very serious man. I don't think he was necessarily prepared for, he was a single parent of me for a while, and I have an older sister, but she lived more with my mom. Um, so I think, and in his childhood, his dad was a minister, and it was a pretty strict household. His dad was
Yeah.
a Methodist minister. So we celebrated Christmas. Um, Halloween, I'm trying to think. Thanksgiving, I don't really, maybe I spent Thanksgiving with my mom. Um, Kwanzaa wasn't really popular back then in the 70s, so I don't remember even hearing about Kwanzaa. Um, so I'm trying to think of any sort of traditions that we had. And then it was interesting when my dad was in high school, he converted to Judaism. I did not. So he then celebrated some Jewish traditions.
Yeah.
If anything else comes to mind, I'll let you know.
Uh, so, what were some important life lessons that you learned? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think about my dad a lot. He passed away in 2018. My mom is still alive. I mean, my dad was a very dignified, respectful person. I think what I learned from him was how to conduct yourself the right way and just be professional. And I don't necessarily recall him always wearing a coat and tie, but he never looked sloppy. So he just had pride in his appearance and looked people in the eye. And I remember going with him to a couple speeches he gave. He gave some graduation speeches at colleges, and I remember people would come up to him afterwards and compliment him, and just the way that he was able to accept their compliments and validate the person stood out to me. Sometimes when you give people a compliment, they'll be like, "Oh, no, it's nothing," and he received the compliment and also just sort of gratified the person giving him the compliment. So I think I learned how to just receive the goodwill of other people. I think from my dad, I learned lessons of just hard work, just work hard. He spent a lot of time on his writing, and on being a professor and preparing for his lessons. And just remember him being up late at night, typing away on his typewriter. There were no computers at that point. So hard work, sort of pride, conducting yourself the right way. And I don't want to diminish my mom, who's still a central part of my life. I think from her, I learned about just being joyful, giving people the benefit of the doubt. Again, being warm and open-hearted to people and assume that they are coming at you from a good place. And I think because she's still alive and we're in touch regularly, I still receive lessons from her on a, on a fairly regular basis.
Yeah, yeah. So, like, who is someone that you admire?
Yeah, these are all great questions. I mean, admire both of my parents. One is alive, one isn't. My couple people stand out from my childhood. My fifth and sixth grade teacher was a man named Mr. Wallace. Haven't been in touch with him for a long time. I don't think this is the reason why he was a role model for me, but he's African American, and at the school that I went to, there weren't many African American teachers. He was interested in sports. Um, Sort of took a liking to me and I think to all his students. So he stands out as a role model, somebody I admired and still do. My elementary school principal, Mr. Dalton, I remember him reaching out to me when I was in high school and college after, there were some things written in the newspaper about me beyond my time in elementary school, about sports and about academics. And he wrote me like notes and letters about that. And clearly he was proud of me as a former student at his school. And my high school and college lacrosse coaches, I'm still in touch with to this day. And I've had in my chapel talks over the years at MPS, I've talked about them. Mr. Briggs was my high school lacrosse coach. Coach Bugby was my college lacrosse coach. Um, and just foundational figures in my life that I would put up there with Skip Grant, who's somebody you've probably heard about from both OJ and from your mom as well. And
Yeah,
he was never a coach of mine, but a mentor of mine when I was at St. Albans. So for me, the Mount Rushmore of people outside of family would be, Mr. Grant, Mr. Briggs, and Coach Bugby.
yeah. What like makes them admirable to you?
Yeah. Where are you getting your questions from, man? These are good questions. You're gonna stump me. That's a great question. Maybe some different things and some similar things. It's how they treated me, and it's probably how they treated other people, but just welcomed me, sort of loved me and still love me, showed an interest in me, set the bar high for me and let me know when I was falling short, but they conducted themselves the right way and just looking at them, they raised the high bar and you're like, well, I want to act the way that person acted.
Yeah,
So what makes them admirable? Just who they are as a human being and their selflessness, and what they gave to me and other people. And growing up, I sort of said, yeah, that's what I want to be like.
yeah.
I think a lot of it goes back to the core value of love. I just think there's a lot of love in their hearts for me and everybody else they interacted with, and I think they made me feel special for who I was.
Uh, and also, like, what advice would you give someone my age?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of advice I'd give it to my kids. Treat other people the right way. It goes back to the
Yeah,
golden rule. Treat people the way you want to be treated. You maybe have heard this saying before, but it's character is what you do when nobody's watching. And just um, always try to do the right thing. Work hard, it will pay off. There's certainly time for fun, but don't be a knucklehead.
yeah,
And know that there's a young Sawyer Williams out there. There's somebody looking up to you. You're going into eighth grade now at St. Albans. There could be a C former, or a sixth grader coming in, and you may not even notice them watching you, but they may be looking at you to see how you act, how you dress, how you conduct yourself in the classroom, how you are on the field. Um, but just to try to do the right thing and try to be a role model for others. And you never have any idea how far your influence will spread.
yeah. And like, when times get tough, like for example, when your dad died, then how do you stay like normal?
Yeah. I think, to me, I think having other Well, a couple things. I think I have a strong support network in my family and my colleagues, and I know there are people I can lean on. There's scripture I can reference. Prayer is always helpful, but just knowing there's sort of an extended support network and being open, if I'm going through a hard time, like with my dad passing, just being able to talk about it and not keep it inside. After my dad died, I got a lot of notes from people. I wasn't able to respond to everybody, but just um, flowers, notes, emails. It's always helpful. Sometimes when people die, you don't necessarily know what to say to somebody, but just reaching out and just saying, I'm sorry for your loss, um, is very helpful. I run a lot, as you may know, and just being able to get out on the trails and run and clear my mind is like therapeutic. For some people, it may be playing the drums, it may be artwork. It doesn't, there's no right or wrong, but I just think having an outside venue helps me clear my head and feel better.
Yeah. So like how'd you like fall in love with lacrosse?
Man, you're taking me back, my man. So when I was in Amherst, this is like the 70s, I was in elementary school. Lacrosse wasn't a very popular sport. And I remember just seeing a stick and asking somebody like, hey, what is that? And then it goes back to what you're saying about people I admire, and I'll circle back to that. I played football and hockey first. And then a lot of people who played football and hockey also played lacrosse. And I didn't like baseball that much. I wasn't very good at baseball. To me, it was too boring. I wanted to move around. And to be honest with you, I liked hitting people. Um, and it took me a while to get used to holding a lacrosse stick. And I started playing in eighth grade, like the grade you're going into. And back then, that wasn't too late in the game. Um, it wasn't club lacrosse, so I hadn't missed out. So I liked every aspect of the sport. When I was in high school, I probably liked football the most. I came from a big hockey town, and hockey's big in Massachusetts, so I got the most like recognition and publicity from hockey. But I was the best. The sport I was best at was lacrosse, and that's the sport I decided to continue. I could have played Division III college football, but I was 155 pounds then. That probably wasn't the best fit. Hockey, maybe I could have played college hockey, but like I think my physique, my build, and sort of my assets as an athlete best suited lacrosse. So I like the action of the sport. I
Yeah.
like the creativity. I was a midi. I enjoyed probably passing more than shooting. Played with some good attackmen. Um, yeah, it's a very good question why we like the things that we do, and I'm not coming up with a great answer, but I think it just combined. I like being outside. The hockey rink is cold, my man. And with hockey, it takes like 20 minutes to put all your equipment on, and lacrosse may take 5 minutes. Um,
Yeah.
so lacrosse just seemed to suit me. And I liked it.
Yes.
To be honest with you, I did like the physical aspect of it. I mean, in football, you have that as well, but I don't know that 155 pounds that was going to get me very far in football.
Yeah. So like when did you start coaching lacrosse?
Yeah, so when I was right out of college, the summer after I graduated from college, I had a job in my town helping coach like T-ball and Pee-wee baseball. And that was the first coaching that I remember. And I really liked that and being around young people. And I didn't want to be a baseball coach. I sort of thought when I was in college, I might coach basketball and lacrosse, even though I didn't play much basketball beyond intramural. Then when I was in graduate school, I went to William and Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia, and they had a club lacrosse team. So the first year I was there for 2 years. I was able to play and I really enjoyed that. The second year, they changed the rules in the league. And because I had used up 4 years of college eligibility, I was no longer eligible to play. And I was bummed about that. And I don't think I would have even thought about coaching, but the guys on the team approached me and they asked me to coach. And so I was the only coach for the club team, and that was a great experience. And I really took it seriously. They told me ahead of time I was going to get $500. I never got paid for it, and that's fine. Like I did it for the love of it, but that was my first coaching gig. I was the head coach and the only coach. And then that year, I got an offer to teach English at St. Albans and be the head lacrosse coach. And I think without that William and Mary experience, I wouldn't have had the experience or the confidence, and I might not have even been offered the job, and I might not have been interested in coaching. So I think the year coaching a college team, a club team that we took seriously was foundational and was essential.
Yeah. Well, that's all the questions I